Hi everyone. I was recently linked to a very old series called Spiritual Physics, made by someone called Brain Audi. Like I said, it's very old and it barely has any views, fortunately. But it was stupid and I'm gonna rant about it. See, it includes physics abuse, and I'm a physics teacher, and it also includes physics-related analogies, and I have written two theses on the subject of using analogies in physics education. I really want to pwn this.
If you really want to understand physics, you first have to understand spiritual physics.
Yeah, okay, I think I must have missed that lecture. Okay, what's spiritual physics?
Which means you first have to understand the nature of infinity.
Yes, in order to learn physics, at least beyond a very basic level, you need a working understanding of calculus. Sure.
Now, if you don't believe in God, just call it like life force or the nature of infinity itself.
You have no idea what infinity means, do you?
For those of us who believe in God, it's really easy to call this God because it would have to be alive and it would have to be infinite, and we have long been, taught what infinity is.
Infinity has to be alive? Yeah, you really don't know what it means.
Even though we've been taught that God is infinite, I don't think that we really grasp that the kind of infinity that it is a uniting of opposites.
Not even close. That's not what infinity means.
We all know that God is truth.
God is a supernatural being with magical powers. Truth is an accurate representation of the actual state of affairs. God isn't a representation of any state of affairs. God isn't even a statement.
Truth, though, in order to be truth, has to be complete.
That makes no sense. Truth about what?
Now, what does it mean to say that truth is complete?
Yes, please tell us.
It means high to low.
Huh?
Again, just like math. All the positive numbers, all the negative numbers. And in math, the negative numbers are considered non-real.
Yes, the set of real numbers contains negative numbers.
But in truth, you have such concepts as negative formulas, negative ideas, negative functions.
Do you know what you're talking about?
So in God, there is this terrific set of paradoxes where you have all these negative truths, all these bad truths that God could utilize if he wanted, because it's part of his attributes. Just like I could kill somebody if I wanted to, but I won't.
I could kill someone too, and I probably will if you don't get to a point soon.
So when God goes to create, that if God is going to create and be true to truth, since he himself is truth,
Look, God farted is a statement. God rides a bicycle is a statement. God is a fictional character in a book of fairy tales made up by stupid people is a statement. A statement needs a subject and a predicate. God is just a subject. As such, God cannot be true or false. God can't be the truth about anything, much less the complete truth about life, the universe, and everything. That, of course, would be 42, which isn't a statement either. Unless... No, I guess it's simply beyond human comprehension.
then whatever he creates is going to have to be free.
So if God is truth, and truth includes God's ability to do bad things, his creation must be able to do bad things. Okay, so if God is truth and the truth includes God's omnipotence, then God's creations must be omnipotent, right? No, that reasoning would be stupid.
I mean, look, if somebody punches you in the nose,
get to the point before I hunt you down and punch you in the nose!
If you're God and you're going to allow injustice to exist, basically ordain it.
The way if-then is used in logic is if A, then B, where A and B are statements. Yeah, we covered that. A statement has a subject and a predicate, at least. Besides, if A, then not A is a contradiction. It's impossible. A and not A cannot both be true, because not A is the negation of A. Now, if you mean that if an object A exists, then an object that isn't A also exists, then that's pretty much a tautology, assuming that more than one object exists. Oh wait, no it isn't. Can A be something that exists? Because that would mean that something that doesn't exist would exist. Hey, is that how you get God to exist? Okay, that's part 1 of 5. Are we gonna get to the physics soon? I'm just gonna use the summary. Yeah, these terms are not used in physics. There we go. It's an analogy. And the worst analogy I have ever seen in my life. An analogy is a comparison between two domains. We use our knowledge about the structure of a base domain to explain or make predictions about the structure of a target domain. Because of the structural similarities we know of, we make the prediction that, in this case, the relation G exists in both domains. Now, of course, this needs to be tested, but we have a basis for making the prediction. These graphs represent the two domains in the video. Objects at the top are used as arguments for relations. For example, God and me are connected to the relation purify, meaning God purifies me, or vice versa. I won't distinguish between the two in this case because it's not going to matter. Relations can also be related to each other and to objects by being connected to higher order relations. If we perform the mappings suggested in the video and ignore the fact that it's impossible to map objects which don't take arguments to relations which must have at least 2 arguments, and then superimpose the 2 domains, we find that there are no structural similarities between them at all. Having absolutely nothing to base a prediction on, we still assume that there is a relation, let's call it A, which is analogous to the Jesus dying on the cross relation. Don't ask why. Because there are no structural similarities between the 2 domains, we have no basis for making the prediction that the relation A has the attribute of uniting opposites, or that it takes the arguments quantum mechanics and breaks down in. In fact, we have no basis for making the prediction that it exists at all. So apparently we now introduce a third domain, which, if we again ignore the issue of mapping objects to relations, has an obvious structural similarity to the original base domain. However, this doesn't solve anything. Again, we have no structural similarities that we know of, so we have no basis for making any kind of prediction. Without structural similarities, all we can do is guess that A exists and what it is. This means that the analogy presented in the video is a About as useful as a PhD from Patriot University.
Yep. That one right there.